Welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, brought to you by TournamentPokerEdge.com, the only podcast dedicated exclusively to poker tournament strategy. Now here's your host, Clayton Fletcher.
Hello once again, everybody, and welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast. I'm your host, Clayton Fletcher, in New York City, joined by an absolute legend in the poker world. It's his third or fourth time joining me here on the podcast, but I'll have to say it's been a while since we had this guy on. He's a California resident. He's a very successful cash game player who occasionally decides to join us in the tournament streets and run deep in the main event. You also know him as the voice of the World Series of Poker. David Tuchman, how are you, sir?
I am wonderful. Yeah, we've been together 3 or 4 times, but every time with you is like the first time, baby.
Oh, that's what they all say. What's going on in California these days? You been playing much?
Not a ton, unfortunately. I'm not a big fan of playing with the mask mandate, so I kind of was staying out of the fray for a little bit. And the mask mandate is finally over, so I'm kind of hoping I can get back in and play a little bit. Just, family obligations and stuff have made it difficult to kind of jump back in as much as I'd like to. So I played a little bit, not as much as I want to.
Yeah. Now, you have a lot of different things that you do. You play cash games. You occasionally decide to make day 5 or 6 of the main event. And you play 3 tournaments a year, and it seems like you cash in 2. And you're also a pretty avid sports bettor, as our longtime listeners will recall. So what's been going on in sports betting lately?
Doing pretty well. We've got our futures bets. You and I did not bet this year, which is a good thing. All going well. I've been working with Bet Rivers and Play Sugar House for a while now, creating content for them. So that's a lot of fun. And I'm kind of like, I'm their hockey guy. I do some NFL for them, and I'm their baseball guy. I'm not I don't know a ton about baseball, but I've got a guy who's really, really good. And often that's the trick. Just know a guy.
Yeah. So. Well, it seems like what works really well for you is just bet against the Orioles and anyone who's dumb enough to make a futures bet on the Orioles. And that seems to be your bread and butter over the last several seasons. And this year, same thing this year, man. They're terrible again.
That's been good. I actually did. I avoided the Orioles, though, because I thought they had some good young bats that might surprise. So I avoided the Orioles. Last year we went 4 for 5 on our totals. This year, I think we've got like 7. 5 of them are looking really good. 2 are kind of middling right now, so we'll see how it plays out. But I'm confident. Again, this is not me. This is my boy. I've got a guy in Staten Island. I call him Nucci from Staten Island. And the dude just like lives and breathes baseball.
Well, let's just give a quick shout out to Moochie in Staten Island. How about that?
Yeah. He's my guy. Hey, listen, we're 6-2 on the baseball season so far, and it's all him.
Amazing. Well, I'm guessing he's probably not the only Moochie in Staten Island. Is that a fair guess?
I think that's fair. I think that's yeah.
So, Tuck, everybody wants to know, are we going to be hearing your beautiful baritone voice in the booth at the World Series of Poker this year? Many people they look forward to that. Those who can't attend, they get to live vicariously through you and as you narrate the action. So what are your plans for the summer?
It looks like I will be commentating on the World Series of Poker this summer. Details TBD, but all indications are that I will be in Vegas for at least portions of the summer. Nice to say that, by the way, after the last couple of years, that we're back in Vegas during the summer. As much as it was really nice to be in Vegas in October and November last year, just perfect weather that time of year. So, but there is something kind of synonymous now about being in Vegas when it's 115 degrees and playing poker and sweating with a bunch of smelly other people. Yeah. So I will be there. Hopefully I can play a few events. And the plan certainly is to commentate on a handful of events as well.
Wow, excellent. So, I'm weird, Tuck. I actually love the heat in Vegas. I don't mind it at all. Like on my day off from a tournament grind, I love to just go to the pool and enjoy the hot weather. I know I'm the only one. Everybody was so happy to be there in the fall last time around, but I'm looking forward to June and July being in Vegas, right where I belong.
Yeah, you're weird. I don't know what to say. I mean, honestly, like June, July, August, September really are the reasons why I could never live in Vegas. I mean, it's on my wife and I have a list of cities we would never move to, and Vegas is on that short list. But it's really just because of that. You know, it's one thing to have like one unbearable month, but they basically have 4.
Yeah, I mean, I'm into it though. You know, like you say, I'm weird. It's a dry heat, Tuck. It's a dry heat.
Yeah, no, it's fucking hot, dude. It's just really fucking hot.
Well, you know, the big news this week has been all this alleged cheating by this guy and that guy, and some people are saying that maybe it's time that we had a poker blacklist. What are your thoughts on the latest cheating scandals and the blacklist idea specifically?
I mean, listen, I'm not in the know when it comes to Ali Imsirovich's allegations against him. You know, I don't know much about poison frogs or cults or anything like that. You know, I try to kind of stay out of those lanes,
yeah,
as they might say. I'd love the idea. Like, the idea of a blacklist is brilliant. I mean, I think it's ridiculous that somebody can cheat in Caesars, get 86 from all Caesars property, but then go play in an MGM property, you know? And I think, you know, from a worldwide standpoint, I think the industry would certainly benefit some sort of blacklist. That said, from a pragmatic standpoint, I think it's a very, very tough thing to kind of happen, because unless somebody has done something and is charged legally and is found guilty, I don't think that these casinos and these card rooms would expose themselves legally, and I get it. I mean, fuck, Postle, we had all the evidence in the world, and the DOJ was just like, huh? What? Did something happen here? I don't get it. It's just way above their pay scale. They don't understand it. And, you know, if we tried to explain, like, you know, RTAs to the DOJ, they would just be lost. So that's the problem with it. In theory, I love the idea of a blacklist. To me, if you cheat and there is proof and there could be some sort of a hearing type board, you know, and maybe you have like Matt Savage and Sean McCormick and, you know, some top poker players on that board, and, you know, Tony Burns and the like, and they kind of say, yeah, he's guilty. You know, maybe there's a jury, whatever it is, of poker players, and there's guilty. I would love to see a scenario where those players were blacklisted and not allowed in tournaments anywhere, card rooms anywhere. I think that would be brilliant. I mean, it's kind of done in Vegas. If you're a card counter, if you're found to be a card counter in one casino, your name goes around like, you know, wildfire, and you're not going to be allowed in any casino. So but that is done under the guise of we can refuse service to anybody.
Yeah, it's interesting about the blackjack thing because, you know, as many on Twitter have pointed out, when you cheat at blackjack, you're cheating the casino. When you cheat at poker, you're just cheating the other players. So some people that may be a little bit more cynical than you or I could be, they think that that's why the casinos don't care, because it's not coming out of their pockets, but yours and mine.
Yeah, and I do think there's a legal thing. I mean, I think, you know, and for casinos, they're attitude, I guess, can they expose themselves legally? But I guess you could make the argument that, I mean, if they can ban somebody for card counting and not allow them in their casino or to play blackjack, why can't they do that in poker too? Why can't they refuse service based on the same thing?
Yeah. Now, of course, a lot of the alleged cheating, and I'm very careful to always use the word alleged. Even when I did Mike Postle, I still was using the word alleged, even though to all of us who have ever played cards for more than 5 minutes, the alleged was probably unnecessary. That guy was totally cheating. But yeah,
whoa, slow down there, okay?
Sorry. Call my lawyer. A lot of the alleged cheating that's going on these days is in the online high stakes world, which of course you and I are smart enough to stay away from. But, what are your thoughts on what can be done, like just within the online world, to prevent cheating or to try to just do something about, whether it's people multi-accounting or playing as a team or whatever else people do, ghosting. I've heard about a lot of ghosting. What do you think could be done?
I don't know if I'm the right person to ask, because while I played a lot of online poker back in the day, I'm not like I do a lot of commentary for online poker, but I'm not playing online poker on a regular basis. So there are probably people out there that are far more informed about this than I am. I think people want to do it. You hear about Phil Galfond talking about what he can do with his site, and security, integrity of the game. That's what's so important. I remember having a conversation with Brian Rast a few years ago during an 8-at-8 ride, and he talked about how online poker was becoming like chess. He's like, I didn't get into poker so I could play chess. You know? And where it's just solved, and you can't beat somebody because they're. And he kind of got into that, and he didn't really get into the whole cheating aspect about it. But it's just a shame. I mean, it's just an industry and a game that I love so much, and unfortunately, anytime you have a lot of money up for grabs, there are going to be people out there, and not many of them, but there are going to be people out there, and we'll hear about it in the news, who will do whatever they have to, whether it be cheating or not, to get their hands on that money. So I wish I had the answer of what would be the fix. I don't know. I mean, and I don't want to sit here and spout a bunch of ideas that I'm ignorant on.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I personally have had a moderate amount of success online, and anytime I'm deep in a major tournament, like especially one with a higher price point, a higher buy-in, I just assume that some of my opponents have their coach in the room with them, or they might even be working in larger groups. I assume that that's happening on at least one of the accounts. I don't know. I guess it doesn't deter me from playing, but it might deter me from playing higher buy-ins, I guess.
Yeah, that's the problem. It doesn't deter you from playing because you're a top player, and you're good and you believe in yourself, and you should, for good reason. But if my dad came to me and said, "Hey, online poker's now legal where I am. Should I play?" And what would I say to him?
Right.
What would I say to my dad? What would I say to my brother-in-law? What would I? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My cousin. And somebody who's just a recreational player, I'd be like, "Well, are you prepared to put in a ton of studying and do this?" Or they're just like, "I just want to play poker, man." I don't want to study.
Yeah, I don't want to study, and I also don't want to get cheated. So yeah, there are a lot of deterrents for new players entering the world of online poker. I think cheating in a live tournament is much harder. Although, I mean, you'll hear stories about,
of course,
alleged chip dumping or whatever else. If two people happen to be at the same table or whatever the case may be. But some of these fields, like this opening event this summer, the housewarming, welcoming us all to the new venue for the World Series, it would be virtually impossible, even if you and I had the worst of intentions, to figure out how to cheat in a tournament like that, right? I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah, it's just really difficult. Obviously, if you get thousands of people, even if you had 8 or 10 horses, talking about like Men the Master, or I guess the alleged chip dumping and stuff going on.
Yeah.
When you have 600, 800, 1,200 runners, it's impossible to know who's going to be at the right table at the right time, and are you going to be able to do it? But when these fields are smaller, it's a lot more, doable. I mean, I will say, listen, for me, online poker, you have the legal challenges of trying to get your game and get your site in different countries and different states and different areas of the world. And now you have, and I think you've always had it, the number one challenge really is making sure that people are playing on an even ground. And you can figure out whatever that is. But Matt Glantz put a tweet out the other day, and I thought it was interesting because half of Matt's tweets are just completely crazy, and half of them kind of make sense, right?
Yeah.
If you read through the tea leaves, you can kind of be like, oh, yeah, okay. He's not entirely crazy. But he wrote something the other day, and he said, anytime there's a lot of money involved, anytime you put rules in place that are not enforceable, people are going to break them. And it kind of goes true. It's kind of true. You know, it's one of the reasons why, like, the war on drugs never worked, right?
Yeah.
You know, speeding. You know, the speed limit is 55. I'm driving the other day, and I was going, like, I don't know, I'm going 72, and my kid is in the back going, Dad, the speed limit's only 55. And I go, yeah, okay, shut up, kid. But, you know, it's just – so in poker, you know, if you want to – if you're an online poker operator and you want to make it fair and you want to figure out a way to do it, you've got to figure out a way to do it that's enforceable. Otherwise, there's no point.
Yeah, because then you end up punishing the people that follow the rules.
Right.
Right? Like if we ban guns, for example, this comes up a lot when people talk about. Are
you really going there?
Yeah, but people talk about this. You know, all you're going to have is that the criminals who don't follow the laws anyway are still going to have their guns, right? I mean, that is the exact argument that the Second Amendment rights crowd draw. They point to that argument. Now, I'm not saying that I believe we shouldn't ban guns or that we should, because this is not a political podcast, but it is a case in point of, well, if you can't enforce the rules, then who suffers from following the rules, right? Just those who have to follow the rules because that's how they are.
Right. I mean, the Second Amendment also allows. I guess I should just go out and get a fucking bazooka too, right? But anyway, that's not for this podcast.
Yeah, I didn't mean to trigger you there, Tuck. Get it? Trigger? Oh, never mind.
I got it. But yeah, I mean, I think that's part of it. It's also a matter of. It's not also a matter of just like, you know, making it unfair for the people who are following the rules. It's also making it unfair for the people who just don't even know. Like if I ask my dad, like, hey Dad, what's RTA? He didn't know, you know what I mean? He'd be like, huh? I don't know. I put $100 on the site and I'm just going to play some tournaments.
Yeah, and what chance does he have if everyone else or half the people or even a few of the people are using RTA? I mean, I feel like, you know, obviously straight up in a casino in live poker, you have a much better shot at a fair game. I don't know. You hear things about people marking the cards or, you know, whatever. But a lot of times I think those things come to light. So, yeah, man, it's tough. It's tough to figure this one out.
I think the online companies have a real challenge in front of them. And this has always been the case when gambling is you need to make sure the players know the game is safe, that it is being played on the up and up. And whatever the rules are, come up with them, but make sure they're enforceable, and then go from there.
Yeah, I mean, half the players think that the sites are cheating, and now you have to worry about if your opponents are cheating too. So good luck.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, listen, as somebody who does live stream commentary for a living, you know, the Mike Postle thing up in Sacramento was very distressing as a poker player, but also because this is what I do. You know, and I'm not stupid. I realize that, hey, if this is a threat, these live streams could go away.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, who wants to play on a live stream if you think you're getting screwed out of hundreds of thousands of dollars? Of course.
Well, yeah, and listen, if you're somebody who makes laws and stuff and you see that, you can go, hey, no more live streams. You know, if you're the Nevada Gaming Commission or the California Gaming Commission, you go, okay, let's get rid of these live streams. That's obviously the problem, whatever it might be. You know, it's one of the things I really love about Hustler Casino Live, and I'll just prop up my show that I work on right now, is that integrity is like number one, like absolutely number one. There is no, you know, nobody's allowed like smartphones, nobody's allowed watches on the table. You know, there's a huge delay. You know, the commentators don't have everybody puts their phone in a locked away area before they go into production area. So it's just from that aspect, and I think they realized, and smartly so, they realized, hey, safety and security has to be our number one thing. Then we'll grow from there.
Well, you know, Tuck, every time I come to the LA area, I always make a point of playing at Hustler. It's actually an underrated poker room there. I think maybe it's getting more highly rated now that the Hustler live stream is doing so well. But yeah, I used to kind of feel like I knew about a little secret in that part of the city. Really nice.
Yeah, no, it's
casino.
pretty sweet.
Yeah, really great.
DGAF, who I'm sure you know.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big cash player. He's hosting a couple of days a week there. I'll be playing there. The Hustler Casino live games are going 5 days a week. I mean, the food is good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a nice spot.
Get the spinach salad with salmon. Really good. Highly recommended by Clayton Fletcher.
There you go. Well, next time you come in, we'll get you on the show.
Oh, I would love to play. Definitely. Count me in, buddy. All right, well, let's stop talking about cheating and other depressing things, and let's get excited for the summer. This comes out this coming Friday, so it's almost May. We've only got 1 month to go, basically, until the WSOP kicks off. I'm looking forward to just seeing how they can renovate Bally's Paris convention area. I think they're going to rename it the Horseshoe. The last I heard, they were about to rename it the Horseshoe, but that was supposed to happen in April, and it hasn't happened yet. What are you looking forward to the most?
I'm just looking forward to being back. I'm looking forward to numbers. I mean, I really think that this summer is I think we're going to see some historic numbers. I think we're going to break records. And they're going to be problems for those of you listening, and you love tournaments. You're coming to Vegas, just expect it, and kind of just understand that. First off, it's going to be hot. People are going to be irritable. It's a new place, and they are going to have this summer is going to be ridiculous. With COVID restrictions finally falling by the wayside, with the vast majority of people who want to be vaccinated that are vaccinated, and I'm not going to sit here and say COVID is over. I don't want to get into that either, but it certainly seems like the worst is behind us, and people are no longer letting it. It's not controlling our lives anymore. I do think that we are going to get just crazy good numbers in Vegas this summer. So I think it's going to be amazing. I think it's going to be a shit show at times. And I do think, I'd like to think that the World Series of Poker and the good people over at Caesars will be prepared for what will be bedlam. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm just going to embrace it all.
Embrace the bedlam.
I just think, just know, listen, if you show up, if you have an 11 a.m. tournament and you show up at 10 a.m. to register, just know you're going to be late. Okay? Much better, either show up at 6 in the morning or show up the night before, register then, go home and get a good night's sleep and wake up and come in. Just expect it. And listen, if they figure it out and there's not crazy lines, bonus.
So you're setting the bar low for the new venue. You're not expecting things to be, to go off without a hitch, is what it sounds like to me.
I think that would be naive, because I think the new venue is going to be paired with historically high numbers as well. I think, people are itching to go. People that have waited, and even last year at the World Series, when people really wanted to get out of the house, our numbers were really good, despite the fact that Europeans didn't come until mid-November.
Right.
So now you've got all of Europe coming out again. And then I still think there was at least portions of the country that were trepidatious about flying and coming to Vegas and playing poker back in November, that by this summer they won't be. I think, it's not even setting the bar low, because I think it's going to be an amazing experience as long as you kind of embrace it. I don't know, living in LA, I could either, beat my head in every day because of traffic, or just know that's part of life. Embrace it. Okay, cool. You know what? I'm gonna listen to an audiobook in my traffic. I'll get my phone calls done. So that's my advice to people, and that's kind of what I'm looking forward to this summer.
All right. Well, I'm going to take that advice. I'm going to take my patience pills and embrace the bedlam. And then if there is no bedlam, I'll just be pleasantly surprised. But don't expect perfection.
Yeah.
Well, Tuck, I alluded to the fact that you occasionally run deep in the main event, just for fun.
Not compared to you. Compared to you, I'm getting knocked out in day one. But considering I don't play that many tournaments, the World Series, I think the main event really is it's such a unique animal unto itself, and it is a very good tournament for my style of poker.
Yeah, it really is. You hardly ever play any tournaments, but you usually put on a good show for us when you do decide to play the main event, or I should say when you're schedule allows. I mean, certainly anyone would decide to play the main event. I mean, I'll probably never miss it. If I'm ever not there, I always say this, just assume I'm dead. Like if you see that I didn't play the main event, let's just assume that I'm dead.
That'd be really awkward because I'd like to go to your funeral.
You're like number one on the invite list if there is.
It'd be
one.
such a terrible way to find out and be like, oh man, not only
He's not here.
Not only is he dead, but I missed the funeral.
Missed
this
the
sucks.
funeral. I love talking about my funeral. All right, so let's do a hand. Do you have a hand from your?
I got a bunch. What do you want? You want day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4? Give me a day.
Well, look, I've been kind of reviewing hands that other people played on day 1 and 2 from last year. So why don't we do one from day 3 if you got a good one there?
Day 3. Let's see what we got here.
Yeah, we covered Doyle's table. Whatever they've been showing on Poker Go, I'm finally catching up. There's so much footage on Poker Go. I mean, I can't imagine that any poker fan would think that the price of Poker Go is too high. You could literally watch poker for the rest of your life and still not see everything they have.
Yeah, the only problem with it is, and listen, I love Poker Go. I subscribe. It's fine. There's just a lot of free poker out there. I mean, there's so much poker out there, period, that you could argue that you could pay nothing and still not see all the poker out there.
Well, that's true too, but yeah, I just think the quality that they have, and it's just I love the World Series and I want to watch those tournaments. So that's what I'm into.
Okay, let's see what we got. Oh, I got a weird spot. Okay, so late. This is post dinner. This is post dinner day 4.
Day 4. Okay.
Yeah, I'll give you day 4 one.
That's cool. So we're well into the money by this point.
Oh yeah. I think we made the money late day 3.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we're well in the money. I mean, 400 and change left. Anyway, so post dinner, I not blinded down, but I lost a couple of pots here and there and just hadn't chipped up. We're on about 1 million chips, a little bit under, like 985,000. Blinds are 816-16.
How did you like your table?
It was by far the hardest table I had. So day one was average for a day 1. Not great, but not bad at all. It was fine. I picked my spots. Day 2 was brilliant early on. Like the first 3 hours were brilliant, and I basically tripled up. Late day 2, I went into this like maniacs table where I went from like being the big stack the first 3 hours of my table to a table where I was like the shortest stack and I had like 2.5 million chip stacks on my left.
I hate that feeling.
It's one of the craziest things about poker though, and it's one of the things I love about tournaments, is that you're literally like, you have to like pick and choose. It's almost like a golfer, like the master is just behind us. If you're a golfer, there are certain days where the wind is going the right way, the conditions are such that there are going to be holes that you attack and you go for the birdie, and then there are going to be days where, you're just like, nope, today's a par day, right? I'm just trying to get pars.
Just lay up and try to give yourself a shot at par. Yeah.
So and I love that about poker tournaments because early on in day 2, it was very much like, okay, I'm in chip accumulation mode, get as many chips as I possibly can, play as many hands as I possibly can. I am by far the best player at this table, okay? And I just dominated. Then I go to end of day 2, I literally had a Poker News reporter behind me, and he asked me about it, and I go, yeah, I'm treading water now for the next. We had a level and a half left in the day or so, and I was like, I'm going to tread water the last 3 hours. Wow. Because it was just that one, Day 3, I had a fantastic table, and I went into day 4 with like a top 100 stack.
Wow.
Like I abused the bubble. Like it was so much fun.
Yeah.
So much fun. So day 3 was brilliant. I was just cruising,
Sure.
That was beautiful. Day 4 was really, really tough. I had like 2 Germans. I had another pro. I had Elke at my table.
Oh, God.
So it's what you kind of expect. It's more of what you'd expect as you get, further along in the tournament. The cream rises to the top. There are less bad players. There are more good players. But day 4 was a tough table.
So if my math is correct, you got what, like 60 big blinds here?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. The blinds are 816. I've got 985. So 62 bigs?
Yeah, 62, and then your M is 25 for those who prefer M, like me. All right, so what happens?
It's literally post dinner. I come back. The big blind had not returned yet from dinner, and I'm in the small blind. Okay, so it's already kind of a little bit of a weird spot, right?
Yeah, because then if anybody raises, you're like, well, are they just trying to get that dead money? There are some dynamics with people not coming back from dinner in time for their big blind. In my experience, in all of the days of the main event, but especially once you're in the money, I find that right after dinner, players tend to be, they come back from dinner ready to play. They want to bluff. They want to get in there.
Absolutely. Sorry, I'm chewing pizza.
That's okay. I mean, I wouldn't expect you to wait 45 minutes to eat your pizza just because we're recording a podcast. I mean, by all means, Tuck.
I had to swim this morning. I had to hike this morning. I got to keep this figure. Okay? Otherwise, I waste away nothing.
Mushroom and pepperoni or what? Like, let's get into
No, it's
the
actually,
pizza.
it's a Syracuse pizza. It's delicious. It's chicken, but with a buffalo sauce.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a buffalo spice sauce.
I think
it's basically like Buffalo Wild Wing.
Ooh.
Like a Buffalo Wings, spicy pizza. Really good. Anyway.
It sounds GTO to me.
I digress. Anyway, let's move on. So I'm sitting down. I'm in the small blind. There is no big blind. Under the Gun 2 opens, okay?
Yeah.
To 32,000, min open. He has 500K behind. Okay?
Yep.
So we're, 30... I want to say, 40 bigs deep? I'm sorry, what is that?
It's about 30, right?
30, like 31, 32 big blinds deep.
Yeah.
I'm in the small blind with Jack 9 of hearts.
Okay. I mean, you could absolutely fold. I think folding is fine.
Jack 9 heart?
Yeah, I think folding's okay. He's raising from early position. We do have to wonder, is he trying to steal the big blind? Folding is absolutely okay. I think calling is okay. I'm not a fan of 3-betting this hand, so...
Well, there's no... Right, remember, I'm in the small blind, but there is no big blind.
Right.
So I closed the action. So it was one of those things where I'm not quite... I'm treating it like a big blind situation, but knowing that I'm not quite getting the exact same price. So instead of calling 16 to win 40, which would make it a no-brainer call from the big blind...
Yeah.
I've got to call 24 to win 40.
Yeah, and so it's...
Sorry, I got to win 24 to win 72.
Right. So it's not a terrible price. It's like a 3-to-1 odds. But, Jack 9 suited against an early position raise. You're going to be out of position. Folding is okay, but I probably would call.
Okay, so pot, I call. Pot is, from my gathering, I think it's 88K. Might be more than that, actually. I think it's got to be more than that. I think my math is off. 32, and there's a 32 dead money, right? Because 16. So, yeah, the pot's got to be 96K.
That's right.
I wrote it down wrong.
Okay.
I call. Flop is Queen 10-10.
Okay, so we're open-ended. Any hearts?
1 heart.
Okay. I mean, we're never leading. We're going to check to him every time.
I check.
Yeah.
He bets 21K, so he bets, quarter pot.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind whatever you want to do here except folding. I mean, you can call and just try to make a hand. You could definitely check raise. I think that it's Queen 10-10, right?
Queen 10-10.
Yeah, we should have more tens than he does. So we have a nuts advantage, if you will. Although, I mean, I suppose he could have pocket queens or pocket tens, but he won't have a lot of tens in his early position raising range. Not as many as we do anyway from our calling position. I mean, we should be calling from out of the big blind with ace 10 suited, king 10 suited.
Do you consider under the gun +2 early position even with a big blind not there yet?
Yeah, I mean, you could say it's, with that other player missing, you could treat it more like an early middle if you want. But yeah, I mean, I put him on a fairly strong range. I wouldn't respect a late position raise as much as I normally would, which isn't very much, by the way. But especially when the big blind is missing, then I really would discount the veracity of someone claiming to have a hand from late position. But when this guy's doing this from, just one fold to him or 2 folds to him, I think it's, he's early middle. So I would put him mostly on a value range. But yeah, he doesn't like those tens. He's not going to have a 10 in his hand very often. I think we'll have a 10 in our hand more often. So we could go for the check raise here if you want to. Also, he's got a pretty sizable SPR, so we've got some wiggle room. It's not like anyone has to get pot committed here on the flop, especially with this tiny, quarter pot bet that he's made. So I'm happy to call or raise. What did you do?
I called.
Okay.
So pot is now about 120,000. Okay. About 130,000 actually.
Yeah.
Okay. Turn is a king. So I make the straight.
Yeah. Yeah. So great card for us, obviously.
Right. Now, there's a couple of different spots here. I mean, sometimes I actually like the check call lead here, because a lot of players will check that back and stuff. But I decided to check it.
Yeah, well, you're not going to get two more streets of value very much if you check again, right? But
that was my thought process, right?
Yeah.
Like if he had a queen, I mean, honestly, even if he has a hand like aces, he might get one street and that's it. You know?
Yeah, probably. He
So,
has to worry about a 10.
This is the crazy thing. So this is my plan was I was going to check. My plan once I decided to check. I decided I'm going to check. If he bets, I will probably check raise all in or check raise pretty significantly. Okay?
All right.
And go from there. I check. He bets pot.
Oh.
Yeah, that was my thinking. That was almost. By the way, that was almost exactly what I said in my head.
Oh.
I didn't verbalize that, but I went, oh.
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking. I felt like his sizing was so polarizing on the turn. Now I'm taking the raise I'm like, now I can't raise here. I decide just to call.
Yeah, well, we can't fold. I mean, we
No, I got a fucking straight. I'm not.
Yeah, we're not
everything.
folding. But yeah, I agree with you. He's representing at least a straight himself with this bet. So, and he will have.
Right. Keep in mind, Ace Jack is a hand that's the nut straight.
Sure.
Pocket kings, pocket queens. Are all certainly possibilities. I did think, is there a chance he's overplaying a 10? But to your point, and this is something I did consider as well, I didn't know how many 10s he had in his range from early-ish middle position, but I did kind of level myself into thinking, well, maybe he has more considering the big blind wasn't there. Maybe he was stealing, with a hand like Ace 10 or, Jack 10 or King 10. But at King 10 and those kings I can't beat anymore.
Yeah.
Like against his value range, I'm in pretty bad shape right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's polarized, so he's either got us beat or he's bluffing or semi-bluffing, right? I mean, this is pretty ugly.
Right, and I block, by the way, I mean, if somehow he was going to, I mean, this is pretty high-level thinking, but I'm trying to think, like, first of all, if he has the hands that you'd be semi-bluffing would have a jack in there.
Yeah, and
it's hard to imagine that the jacks wouldn't also have, if he had a jack in his hand, he's probably got showdown value, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he could have pocket jacks, but that seems like a very strange play for him to make with pocket jacks, unless he's thinking, wow, with these two jacks, I really block the straights. But, he still has to be concerned about you being able to beat a straight, right? Because you called him on the flop, and, the board is paired. Yeah, this is, you said this was a tough spot. It really is, Tuck.
Yeah, well, it gets tougher on the river, but that was my thought process, and I just wanted to. So again, I was like, first of all, I block jacks, and I'm like, okay, if he's semi-bluffing, I think he's doing it with a jack in his hand. But all the jacks that he would raise with an early position, either A, have showdown value, or B, already have me beat, like ace jack, for example. And when I check call the flop, to your point, I have 10s in my range. Is he really, it's really hard for him to, is he really trying to get me to fold that?
Yeah, probably not. And you also have some king 10, some queen 10. I mean, if you have jack 9, you can have queen 10 or king 10 for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? So you have
Yeah. It was a weird hand because, the big blind wasn't there. So a lot of hands that I either would fold from the small blind or 3-bet with the small blind, I now have.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, this feels pretty bad. I mean, it's like, if he's bluffing, what bluffs does he have that he's going to go pot on us? Does the turn card bring a flush draw?
No.
Okay, so we can't even put him on that sometimes. So it's a Badoogie board. Ugh. Wow, this is rough. I mean, the more I think about it, the more I don't like my Jack 9. But at the same time, like, we didn't get to this point in the hand.
Can you imagine, right? You make the straight, you're like, yeah, baby. Then you check, and the guy you bet, you're like, whoa, 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 what just happened here?
Yeah, it's hard to find bluffs for him.
So now that I call.
Yeah.
Okay, so the pot is now like call it 350-ish. Okay?
And he's only got what, like another 2 something behind?
He started the hand with 500, so he's got like 350 behind.
Oh, okay, so he's got a pot-sized bet remaining. All right.
Right.
Yeesh.
River's a 5, a blank.
Okay.
I check, which I think is at this point pretty standard. The villain bets 300,000, leaving him with 50 behind.
Oh God. Now, all right. So I don't know this opponent at all, Tuck. But one thing,
a German
okay,
guy, a German kid who, nice guy.
Yeah.
German in his late 20s.
Yeah.
Not super young. I mean, not like 21, but
Right.
German somewhere. I would say somewhere between 26 and 33.
Yeah. So at this point, you're really missing your day 2 table, your day 3 table.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, this is a pretty sickening spot, but I can tell you that a lot of the German players, actually just say a lot of players in general now, will leave themselves like those few chips behind so that if their bluff gets called, they'll have a few chips to try to spin up and maybe ladder up a little bit more. Because remember, you guys are in the money at this point, so just surviving a little bit longer can mean another $1,000 or more, right? So with that said, because they do that when they want to leave themselves a little bit left to spin up, they also need to do that with their value hands. So like him leaving himself a little bit behind doesn't really tell us anything. My problem right now is just name 2 cards that are bluffing. I can't. Like,
Yeah, I couldn't either. I couldn't find bluffs in his range.
Then the question becomes, if he's never bluffing, or we can't even think of a hand, we can't say never because he's German, right? He's going to be bluffing sometimes. Right.
There's always a weird spot that he's bluffing. But...
Right, like, pocket deuces or something, who knows. But if it's hard to put him on a bluff and he's polarizing himself, that means he's betting for value. So the question becomes, does this player have any value hands that would play this strongly that Jack 9 can beat? And I think the answer is no.
So that was my thought. So end of the day, I always try to think about this as a poker player, and I think it's probably one of my best traits as a poker player, and it really helps me in these kind of tournaments, is I'm very good at understanding how I am perceived. And maybe I'm not, but I think I am. So I did not think he thought that I would make a big fold. And when I say a big fold, I mean like a huge fold, like folding trip 10s.
Right, or better in this case.
Right. Now, when I call the turn, I mean, like, am I really calling the turn with, like, I'm trying to think of a hand, like, like, what hands am I calling the turn with?
That's a great point, Tuck. The gentleman bets the pot on the turn, and you called. You're always going to have something at that point. He priced you out of all your draws. You have a made hand, at least a king.
At least a king, right? Like, so let's say somehow I had let's say I had King Jack. There,
yeah,
so
King Jack, king. Right? Yeah.
So I didn't think he thought I would make a big fold. I also didn't think that he'd throw away his World Series of Poker main event on a bluff. Now I know he's German and younger and and I know he's still had like 50,000 chips left. But, at this point, that's
nothing.
3 big blinds.
Yeah, that's nothing, yeah.
I mean, that's literally 3 big blinds. It's one thing to leave yourself with like 120 and you've got 9 big blinds, but he left himself with like 3 big blinds.
Yeah.
I mean, he's all in the next hand or two, right?
Right.
So I decided that he was way more likely to have a value in this spot.
And you
the
threw
only
it
thing I
away?
was Huh?
And you threw away the Jack 9?
Well, no, I decided he was... But I was concerned that I could beat Ace. I was concerned. I was like, okay, I hate throwing away a really huge hand if I can think of a hand my opponent might be overvaluing. Like maybe they're value owning themselves. Like, does my opponent ever have Ace 10 here?
I think it's pretty ambitious to hope that a German player would play Ace 10 this badly.
like this strong, and just completely dismiss the fact that I could have a straight there or a smaller full house.
Yeah, I mean, you might be able to beat a straight the way you've played it. So yeah, would he throw away his whole main event on a bluff? Well, I think he's more likely to do that than to throw it all away with ace 10. You can't even call.
I went back and forth.
Right, you can't call a 300.
This one fucked with me. I eventually actually called the clock on myself. I swear. I mean, I ended up, by the way, I called the clock on 3 different occasions during the main event.
Good for you, Tuck.
I don't put up with it,
Me neither.
And they were. Listen, I play poker for a living. I've done this for a long time. Each and every time that I called the clock on somebody, it was egregious.
Yeah.
By them. If somebody needs 4 minutes for their tournament life, take it, dude. Especially if you've been good all day,
Right, you've earned it.
So I mean, I actually, not only did I take all the time in the world, I turned my hand over. I'm like showing. I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, I did not turn my hand over. Obviously, that would have been a penalty. I guess I turned it over at the end. I think I flipped it over at the end when I didn't. I eventually found the fold.
Good for you, Tuck. I mean, look, if you got outplayed, if this is the one time out of 90 that you were outplayed on this, I mean, if he has ace 10, you can't call unless you can beat ace 10. So he doesn't have a value bet here. He's not value owning himself with ace 10. It's actually like,
I mean, it would be a terrible, right. I mean, we see bad players all the time value bet a hand and play a hand so badly because they have no idea where they're at.
Right.
And they value bet a hand, and inadvertently, it works out great for them because they ended up bluffing with it, right?
Yeah.
I have to imagine that this particular player put me on some sort of a range of hands and realizes that a 10, just trip 10s is probably not a value bet.
Right. Yeah, so I think we can pretty much remove 3 of a kind from his betting range when he plays this strongly. And, this is for our listeners, anyone who's wondering what we mean by polarized. We talk about this a lot. When you make a really large bet, you're not going to ever do that with like a medium strength hand like second pair or something. A really large bet is going to be a very big hand or a very small one. It's not going to be a medium strength hand. So you're polarizing, meaning you're at one extreme or the other. And so I commend you, David Tuchman, on finding that fold. I think a lot of players wouldn't be able to throw that hand away. And you have to know that there's a non-zero chance that you got bluffed off a straight. We can't name what that bluff would be, and I'm sure he didn't show you, right?
He did not show me, but he did tell me at the end of the day.
And so what did he say? He had a full house?
He had kings.
Yeah,
he turned top full house.
Yeah, and that's what.
Which, by the way, when you look at the hand, it makes absolute sense because now you're looking at it going, okay, he knows that I have a lot more 10s in his range, in my range, than he does. He bets small. He keeps the pot. He blocks straight draws anyway. He bets small. He wants value. Once I call, now he's probably thinking, okay, well, what am I looking for? Either I'm up against the queen, I'm up against a smaller straight draw, I'm up against a 10. I have to imagine if the turn was, say, a 5, maybe he bets again, maybe he checks, probably bets smaller again. But when the king comes off, now he's thinking, cool, I hope my opponent's got a 10. I'm going to go for the whole enchilada.
Right. He wanted you to have a 10. He wanted you to have ace 10 and not be able to let it go. But
the king is such a perfect card, too, because it completes, if I was in there with ace jack,
yeah,
I got the straight. If I had jack 9, I've got the straight. If I had a 10, if I had a hand like queen jack, or even like any 10, obviously, suddenly now I'm going to want to stick around so he can size it up on the turn because he knows that whatever I called the flop with is likely to continue, except when I have let's say I had called the flop with I'm trying to think, let's say like a queen 9 suited type hand.
Yeah.
I probably toss that in the muck.
Right. Wow. Yeah, this is a really good fold. I believe he had pocket kings there. Raising from early middle position, even if the big blind isn't back from dinner yet. And this kind of goes back to what I said pre-flop. I know some of my listeners play a lot tighter than I do, and certainly tighter than either one of us do. Tuck, you and I like to get in there. I'm more of a loose generally my playing style is fairly loose. I mean, I tend to be tighter in early position than a lot of people, but yeah, a big part of my game is getting involved, I want you to know it's okay to fold the Jack 9, even with the big blind absent. If this German guy wants to steal that from where he's sitting, it's not the end of the world to just let him have the pot pre-flop. But if you're going to play it, you got to be good enough to get away from a straight if the situation warrants it, as it does here. So
yeah, I thought folding, and I'm curious your take on the because I thought Jack 9 of hearts was just such a playable hand when you close the action. I thought that would be too tight a fold.
Yeah, I mean, if you're losing money by folding, then it's because you can make some kind of profit by playing, right? So those two things go together in a zero-sum game. And like, how much are we really going to make playing Jack 9 suited from out of position against a young German professional?
That's a good point. I mean, I guess I was in the situation as well. At this point, this table, it was just like, okay, pro on my left, pro over here, young German professional over there. Oh, by the way, the guy who finished second place in the World Series main event, he was on my direct left.
Also at your table. Great. Perfect.
I mean, and by the way, I thought he might be the one spot at the table.
Right. Yeah, the guy who
That's the funny
back...
thing. I look at the table, I see Elke, two Germans, another pro. I'm like, okay. And there's this guy on the left who's like, I don't know, kind of middle-aged, a little overweight. I was like, there's the spot.
Yeah, right. Well, he was a spot because he didn't come back from dinner. That's about it.
Right, exactly. But, yeah, I guess that's the point. Because my eventual knockout hand, there's another situation there where I defended out of the big blind with ace-7 offsuit against an early position open. And I talked to Patrick Leonard about that. And once I called the flop, my knockout hand, it was on CBS Sports. I defended the big blind with ace-7, and the flop came out ace-7 deuce.
Oh, and you lost?
My opponent had aces.
Oh, jeez.
Jeez.
What are you supposed to do?
No, totally. But so I had chalked that up to just, okay, at cooler, there's nothing I could do, right? But I talked to Patrick Leonard about it, and he opened my eyes to something that you just brought up again, which was just simple as, against an under-the-gun, listen, ace-7 offsuit is an absolute easy defend from an late position open.
Right.
But he said, listen, from an under-the-gun open, he goes, ace-7 offsuit is actually a fold. I said, really? He goes, yeah, you're just not, you're not 200, 300 big blinds deep anymore. Let's say you're 60 big blinds deep, 55 big blinds deep. He goes, what flops do you like? He's like, how are you going to make money on this?
Well, you think if you flop ace-7 deuce, you could make some money, but instead you end up going home.
But I mean, even like, when a 7 comes off, I'm playing defense because it's an under the gun open, and he's going to have a lot of overpairs there.
Right.
If an ace flops, I'm just hoping that I'm not out kicked.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, Patrick's point was you could have avoided the cooler by just folding. And he was not – I mean, Patrick Leonard's a friggin' boss. He was not being results-oriented. He was very much saying, I advocate folding that hand in that spot.
Yeah. I mean, look, in the main event, you've got 2-hour levels. We're in no hurry. In a different tournament, you have to force the action a little bit more. In a tournament like this one, now I understand you're at a really, really tough table. And by the way, I just want to reiterate, Tuck, I would also have called with Jack 9 suited. Even under these circumstances. I don't say that you shouldn't call or that calling was bad per se. I'm just saying if any of our listeners are like, I probably would have just folded, I'm with them. I think that folding's also okay.
I'll put it this way. I think the Jack 9, the fact that you're even considering folding Jack 9, it was the reason I wanted to bring up the ace-7 hand. Because I think the Jack 9 hand I think it's a call. Getting 3-1, I think it's a hand that plays well post-flop. I actually had that opponent covered, so I thought I could make some money on that spot. I think the ace-7 was an absolute fold, though, the more I think about it. So I think that's kind of a valuable lesson for anybody who plays tournaments, any of your listeners. I think, a lot of times we get a bad beat in the tournament or we get coolered and we just kind of chalk it up. I guess I got unlucky. And I think it's really important to kind of look yourself in the mirror and realize, okay, was there anything I could have done differently? And I'm not talking about like, we'll just move all in with aces pre-flop so he doesn't call you. I'm not saying something stupid like that. It's just I think it's really important as a poker player to, honestly evaluate your play after the fact and just kind of think about it. Okay, was there something I could have done? And to your point, yeah, it was a tough table, which makes even more of a reason for me not to play, not put myself in tough spots out of position.
Yeah, I mean, we at least have a fighting chance against Germany when we're on the button,
Right. And by the way, as tough as my table was, these things change so quickly. I mean, let's say, one of the Germans gets knocked out, another guy gets moved, and suddenly I've got two 45-year-old, guys from LA. Suddenly I'm like, oh, wow, my table's good again.
Right. It does happen
maybe
quickly.
I get moved to a different table, and suddenly so I do think and it kind of goes back to my point from earlier on, I think there are points in the tournament where you have to choose to tread water, lay low, wait for your spots, and then there are times where you want to accumulate chicks. It's this a little more than anybody. It's such a long tournament. It's a marathon.
Did you say accumulate chicks or chips?
Both chicks and chips.
Chicks dig a guy who accumulates chips.
Right, exactly. But I just think if there was a mistake that I made, it was just a question of just, maybe coming back from dinner and feeling like, oh, let me see if I can get back up to 80, 90 big blinds like I was earlier.
Right.
Rather than just being like, I've got 62 big blinds. I'm totally fine. Just fold.
Yeah, you're always even. Forget the money you lost or whatever you used to have. You're even right now. Like, you've got what you've got, and that's the stack we have to play, not the stack we had before dinner. But yeah, I'm not beating you up for calling with Jack 9 suited. I think I would have called as well, but I definitely think there's a strong case to be made for just staying out of this one. With being at a disadvantage, you've got he's got a range advantage pre-flop. He's got probably a skill edge over us, if we're being honest. Not a big one. I mean, you're a very good player. I'm not trying.
Yeah, I didn't think I was outclassed by those players.
No, not at all. You can hold your own talk.
Even if you're not outclassed, that doesn't mean that they're giving anything away. They're still, really good players.
Right, and if you're up against someone who's about as good as you, and you guys are roughly even, whoever's in position has a huge edge.
Well, and also let's not forget, and this is something you brought up, he also is going to have a better hand than me.
Right. He's in their early middle position.
Right. I mean, I think most betting markets would go, okay, 29-year-old German in position, started with the better hand, or
David Tuchman. Yeah.
dude in his 40s, dude in his 40s defending out of position with a worse hand.
Right.
I mean.
Yeah, the betting market would definitely favor the German in this case.
Yeah.
Well, that's good, man. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing these lessons with us. And I always tell people, if anyone ever asks me, I think you're the best play-by-play poker guy ever. To me, you're the GOAT. I love working with you. I love talking poker with you, and the way that you are able to not only think about the game, but the way you're able to bring your insights about the game to light on the spot, in the moment, for a wide audience is such a talent. And, to me, you're just a legend.
Hey, thank you. Honestly, that means a lot to me. And I just hope your audience realizes, because to me, there is no better poker player / comedian in the business. I mean, there's nobody. I don't think there's any comedian who plays poker better than you, and I know there's no poker player who's as funny as you. So
I always appreciate a David Tuchman backhanded compliment.
I love you. I love you, Fletch.
I appreciate you, man. Hey, what are you promoting before I say goodbye? What do you want people to do? Tell them what to do.
I don't even know. What do I want them to do? Just live life and have fun and smile. That's what I'm promoting. I'm promoting happiness. I'm promoting love and smiling, and if you want to do something for me today, say hi to a random stranger today.
Oh my God! Somebody just got back from Coachella. All right. Well, follow him on Twitter, Tuck on Sports, and definitely. Actually, last week we were on CBS Sports together, David Tuchman and I, doing commentary for the 2021 3K Freeze Out, which was a really, really fun final table with a couple of memorable and very colorful characters. Yeah, they showed it last week. I got a few phone calls like, "Hey, I hear you on TV." Makes me happy.
That's always cool. I wasn't even aware of it.
Yeah, they've been airing our episodes, man. So set the DVR or whatever.
I'll put a tape in my VCR.
Yeah, do that too. My Betamax is still working very fine. David Tuchman, thank you so much for joining us here on the Tournament Poker Edge podcast.
I wanna hold them like they do in Texas Plays. Fold them, let them hit me, raise it, baby, stay with me. Luck and intuition, play the cards with babes to start. And after she's been hooked, I'll play the one that's on her heart. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Carry my, no she can't read a mile. Hold the face, she's got to love nobody. Carry my, no she can't read a mile. Hold the face, she's got to love nobody. Poker face, poker face. Poker face, poker face. I wanna roll with her, a hard pair we will be. While little gambling is fun when you're with me. I love it. Russian roulette is not the same without a gun. And baby, when it's love, it's not rough, it isn't fun.